Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about why React is still the framework of choice in 2021. And it basically boils down to three reasons, and those are longevity, popularity, and community support. And we're going to get into each one of those right now. Let's talk about longevity. So React came out first in 2013, and I think really started picking up steam around 2015, 2016. I learned it 5 years ago in 2016, and since then it's pretty much just continued to rise in popularity. You can see that through GitHub stars and also in other sources like the Stack Overflow developer survey. React is everywhere, and that's partly because it's just been around a really long time. Now, if you know anything about the history of JavaScript frameworks, you know there were a lot of iterations there at the beginning, and there were a lot of frameworks that came and went. For example, Knockout.js and Angular.js, or Angular 1, both came out in 2010. After that, there was Backbone, and of course many others that have been lost to history because they didn't stick around. And so there was kind of a skepticism that developed around front-end frameworks, but now we basically have what I would call the big three, maybe big four: React, Vue, Svelte, and Angular 2. And so you can see that kind of the challengers have fallen away, and we've kind of gathered around 3 or 4 big frameworks that are much more mature. So React has benefited from kind of those first ones that came and went, that maybe had some patterns that didn't make sense. It was able to build on the progress that the first frameworks made, and because of that, it was better, and because of that, it stuck around. So what does that mean for you? Longevity is something that you want in frameworks, in the tools you use. You don't want to learn something that is here today and gone tomorrow. So if you are deciding on front-end frameworks to use, you can be sure that React is a solid and stable choice. Another thing that tends to influence how solid your choice is popularity. Just as you don't want to learn something that's here today and gone tomorrow, you also don't want to learn something that can't help you get a job, assuming that's your aim. So because React has been around now for 8 years, many companies have built applications on React, and they need developers to staff roles to maintain and continue to develop those applications. So that is good news for us. In addition to just your regular local companies using React, a lot of the really big players and leaders in innovation are using React as well. And that includes companies like Facebook, which created React, Khan Academy, Dropbox, Netflix, Tesla, PayPal, and the list goes on and on. So the fact that the big dogs are using React is another strong signal in its favor. And then kind of a third indicator of popularity is just searching job listings. So if you go on Indeed or any other job aggregator and search for software development roles, there's a good chance that you're going to see a ton of React, especially when it comes to front-end development. I would guess that you would see at least 60 to 70% of front-end roles requesting React skills. So that's all to say that React is a popular choice. And that is helpful because when a tool is popular, that means there's also a lot of community support, which is our third reason for picking React in 2021. So community support, what does that mean? I think that can fall into a few different buckets. So let's talk about learning React. There are tons of free resources for learning React. There's YouTube. There's also Free Code Camp, which is what I recommend that anybody start with who is interested in doing any kind of web development. There's also some really good paid courses out there. So Wes Voss makes courses. Kent C. Dodds has his Epic React course. There's also Tyler McGinnis, and the list goes on and on. There's tons of really, really good resources out there for learning React. In addition to the community support around learning React, there's also a ton of support in terms of the packages that are available. So if you just search npm for React, you're going to get a list of tons and tons and tons of libraries. And that's really good for us because the odds are is that someone has already built a tool that does whatever you need. So just as an example, I was on a project recently and we needed a React select component. And so it turns out there's a React select component called React-select. And that is just available for you there on npm. I was on another project where we needed a Google Maps input, and it turns out there's one of those for React as well. In my personal site, in the email form where people can sign up for my newsletter, that is a React component from ConvertKit, who I use for my email service. So you can see from those examples, React is so popular and hence so well supported by its community that there are just tons of really, really great already built tools that are just there for you to use. Pretty much anything you could think of has already been built, and that is a good thing because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Along with there being a lot of pre-built components, on the problem-solving side, you can pretty much assume that if you're encountering an issue, somebody has already solved it. So for stuff like that, I'm thinking about things like Stack Overflow. So So if you have a common error message or a common challenge about, hey, how do I render this thing? Or how do I deal with input updates? Stuff like that. It really could be anything. The odds are that there's a Stack Overflow for it already, or that there are other forums, like for example, the free CodeCamp forum, where somebody has already detailed a good answer. So that's really helpful, because if you're dealing with a more nascent technology, like for example, I'm thinking the stories people tell about the early days of Angular 1, you're basically just out there in the Wild West, and there's really no best practices, there's no documentation a lot of times, and there's no ways to solve common problems, and that is not a situation that you want to be in. And so the good thing about React, its longevity, its support, people having used it a lot, is that people have already kind of solved a lot of the common problems, and that is a good thing for us. So that is why I think React is still the framework of choice in 2021. This tends to be a contentious topic, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Please feel free to let me know in the comments. I try to respond to all my comments. Thanks so much for watching to the end. If you're still here, you'd probably like the rest of my channel, where I make videos about code, self-improvement, and personal finance. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.